All right, diving straight in today, we're focusing on some major cybersecurity headlines that have everyone talking. First up, we'll unpack the US Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's global tariffs and what it means for tech and trade. Then we'll explore the ongoing battle to keep Android open, based on concerns from the F-Droid community about Google's app installation changes. Finally, we'll get into a real eye-opener about a vulnerability disclosure that turned into a legal nightmare. Let's jump into these stories and see what the implications are for users and developers alike. Starting with the big one from the news feeds, the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs, calling it a deeply disappointing move on his part. According to the BBC report, the court ruled 6-3 that Trump exceeded his authority by imposing these tariffs under a law meant for national emergencies, arguing that congressional approval is needed for such taxes. This isn't just about trade. It hits close to cybersecurity because tariffs often affect tech imports, like hardware and software components that companies rely on for secure systems. I'm thinking about how this could delay updates or even raise costs for cybersecurity tools, making it harder for businesses to stay protected in an increasingly digital world. What really stands out here is Trump's immediate response announcing a new 10% levy on global imports, which he claims is justified despite the ruling. Let me think about this for a second. This back and forth could lead to more uncertainty in the supply chain, especially for AI and cybersecurity firms that depend on international components. Oh, that's actually pretty concerning, because if prices go up, smaller companies might cut corners on security measures, potentially exposing more vulnerabilities. So, yeah, while this is primarily a policy issue, it underscores how global trade decisions ripple into our digital defenses, and I wonder if Congress will step up to clarify these powers moving forward. Shifting gears to our second story. Let's talk about the Keep Android Open initiative from F-Droid, which is raising alarms about Google's potential changes to app installation. From the source, it's clear that Google announced plans last August that could restrict how users sideload apps, and apparently many at FOSDEM thought these were canceled, but they're still on track. The F-Droid team is pointing out that this might limit access to free and open source apps, as users could face more hurdles in installing from sources outside the Google Play Store. I was going to say this is a big deal because it affects privacy and security. If options dwindle, people might stick to less secure apps just for convenience. The source mentions a battle of PR campaigns where Google's statements might be misleading, like talking about some advanced flow for installations that hasn't materialized yet. That's wild because if these changes go through, it could fragment the Android ecosystem, making it tougher for developers to distribute apps independently and potentially stifling innovation in secure open-source tools. Oh, and I'm curious about what this means for users. Will we see more reliance on centralized stores, which could be a single point of failure for attacks? Overall, this push from F-Droid highlights the need for transparency from Google, and I hope it sparks a broader conversation about keeping platforms truly open for better cybersecurity practices. This episode is brought to you by Cybersecurity. Hey, before we get to our next story, I want to take a quick moment to mention something that's been really helpful in my own work. This episode is brought to you by Cybersecurity. Cesium offers top-notch tools for monitoring and threat detection, making it easier to spot vulnerabilities before they turn into big problems. I've heard from a few folks that their platform is straightforward and effective, especially for teams dealing with complex networks. So if you're looking to beef up your defenses, definitely check them out at cesiumcyber.com. Okay, that said, let's circle back to the news and dive into something even more personal. Now, turning to a story that's equal parts fascinating and frustrating. I found a vulnerability. They found a lawyer from the Reddit post and the blog by Yannick Dixkin. This involves a diving instructor who discovered a major flaw in a diving insurer's member portal while on a trip to Cocos Island. Basically, he reported the vulnerability responsibly, but instead of a fix, he faced legal threats, which is just, incredibly disappointing. The blog details how the insurer responded with lawyers, potentially under frameworks like responsible disclosure, though it's not specified in the sources. This highlights a real issue in the industry where ethical hackers might get stonewalled instead of rewarded. What's striking is how commonplace this could become. The source emphasizes that the vulnerability was so fundamentally broken that it shocked the discoverer, yet the response was legal action rather than cooperation. I mean, that's really concerning because if companies keep reacting this way, fewer people might report issues, leading to more unpatched exploits in the wild. Let me think about the broader implications. This could chill the bug bounty ecosystem and make cybersecurity pros think twice before disclosing, which ultimately puts everyone at risk. Oh, and it's a reminder that while responsible disclosure is encouraged, the reality isn't always supportive, so we need better guidelines to protect whistleblowers in tech. Wrapping up our coverage, let's quickly tie these stories together. From the Supreme Court's tariff ruling potentially disrupting tech supplies, to the fight to keep Android open amid Google's changes, and now this vulnerability debacle showing the dark side of disclosures, it's clear that cybersecurity is at a crossroads. You know, these issues aren't isolated. They all point to the need for more robust policies and community efforts to maintain a secure digital environment. I'm genuinely hopeful that discussions like this will push for positive changes, whether that's in trade laws, app ecosystems, or how companies handle reports. In summary, today's briefing underscores the interconnectedness of policy, technology, and ethics in cybersecurity. If you're interested in staying ahead, keep an eye on these developments and maybe even get involved with initiatives like F-Droid. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow for more. Stay secure out there.